The contamination at the centre of our long-running PFAS investigation is a national scandal. On just one road, 50 people diagnosed with cancer, hundreds more with homes they can't sell. Now a compensation offer has been made, $212 million, but it's not over.
We didn't have any options. We didn't have any choices.
After a 5-year battle, a settlement has been reached between the federal government and 3 regional areas of Australia over contamination caused by firefighting chemicals used at defence bases. One key community that led the...
I thought that we would receive somewhere like $500,000. I just thought that it would cover the losses that we're going to have if we try and sell these properties.
The government has to do better than this.
It was hailed as a success, a $212 million payout for hundreds of residents living on contaminated land. But as the dust settles, some of the residents are angry. They say the money is not enough to move on with their lives. Rob Rosewarne was using a mask to mow his lawn long before the arrival of the coronavirus. Like most residents around here, he doesn't trust the earth under his feet.
We have to throw our eggs away. We have vegetables grown on the property. We can't put them in the ground. Our children can't go out on the grass with bare feet.
In 2015, the Environmental Protection Agency told residents the PFAS chemicals had leached into their soil from the nearby defence base. Their water supply was contaminated. Cancer cases were high, so too the community anxiety.
So what, we have another 2 years here and be used as guinea pigs to see whether we survive it?
It's killing me mentally, this is. Just not knowing.
500 Williamtown residents signed up to a class action with Denton's lawyers, seeking compensation for damages to property and business values as a result of the PFAS contamination. In February, class action lawyers and the Defence Department agreed to settle the PFAS lawsuits for Williamtown, Oakey in Queensland and Katherine in the Northern Territory for $212.5 million. What was your initial reaction to the settlement news?
I thought it was excellent. However, I was a little bit cautious. That's my nature, and I think I've been proven right.
From the $212.5 million, members from Katherine in the Northern Territory would receive $92.5 million. Those in Oakey, Queensland, $34 million, leaving $86 million for Williamtown residents. But once you take out legal costs, $32 million worth, the amount reduces significantly. The remaining $54 million would be divided between 500 people, averaging out to $108,000 per person.
Each of the natural members of the class action will be getting $50,000, and that's basically for mental anguish, etc. The remainder will be distributed in terms of a formula. There's not going to be enough to allow those people to move on.
The end amount will take into account a resident's proximity to the RAF base, the use of bore water and the type of property. Many, like Rob, run a business on their land.
My business is down about $160,000 a year since it was disclosed.
We always wanted to sell and to move on to something a bit smaller because it is 25 acres, and as you get older it's harder to do the work associated with looking after 25 acres.
Gayleen Brown used to run a riding school on her property. She's since leased that part out, but remains living on the land with no buyer in sight.
The compensation that we're going to receive is not going to cover the losses that we're going to make. And that, I think, is why people are angry, because they wanted, or they thought, they believed that they would get an amount of money which would have allowed them to leave the area.
Do you think that you would actually get anyone willing to buy into this area, given what we know about it?
I wouldn't.
Gayleen's place is on Cabbage Tree Road, the now infamous stretch where nearly 50 people living on either side of the street have faced a cancer diagnosis. When we originally met Gayleen back in 2017, she was recovering from breast cancer. She's philosophical about the settlement.
It's not as much as we probably wanted, but we're definitely getting something back.
Criticism has also arisen over the Williamtown residents in the steering committee receiving an extra $20,000 each as part of their compensation package for their role in the negotiations.
The community rightfully is a little bit upset.
However, we all received an outcome. We received compensation. And we didn't do that for any outlay. We didn't have to put our hands in our pockets for money. We did very little work.
But while the two parties agreed to the settlement in February, a federal court judge is yet to decide whether it is fair. Justice Michael Lee invited any residents unhappy with the settlement to write to him before the matter returns to court next month. A Current Affair has spoken to dozens of residents who did not want to appear on camera. Some have written to the judge with their objections, but others are tired, and they say they're happy with whatever they can get. This battle has lasted many years. Some say they just don't have any fight left.
The Commonwealth's tactics seem to have won. Instead of looking after the people they're supposed to be concerned about, they've just ground them into the dirt.
John Donoghue was the commander of the Williamtown RAF base from 1993 to 1995. He too has written to the judge as someone independent of the case with his own solutions.
I recommended that he rule that the Commonwealth was to provide a voluntary acquisition scheme and a consequential loss scheme for businesses who had lost money.
How do you feel about the way Defence have handled this whole situation?
Well, it's probably not just me, but I believe that many serving members and retired members of the Australian Defence Force feel most uncomfortable about the way that the Commonwealth has treated its neighbours.
If this does go to court, there is the potential that you could lose everything. Is that something that you've thought about?
We've fought for 5 years. Hey, there is a chance of risk. There is a chance of things not going the right way. But what value is your health to you?
What lessons have you learnt throughout all of this, Gayleen?
I've learnt that solicitors cost a lot of money. Litigation costs a lot of money. I've found that the more you stress about things, the worse your health gets. And I've found that you need to live every day like it's your last, because it may be one day.
If the federal court does not approve the settlement in June, that doesn't mean it'll be renegotiated. The most likely next step will be for the court to set the matter down for hearing again next year.